Hello and welcome to the midweek reboot. My name's Mayan, and I'm really glad that you're here, whether you're joining live or if you're watching this later. This is a pause in the middle of the week, and the aim is to restore your stability midweek. We're tackling case file number 3 in the Calm Performance Reset. And just a reminder on what the Calm Performance Reset is. It is one real professional pressure point, which we will unpack, we'll examine that clinically. We won't judge it, but just to understand the mechanics behind it. And then we look at how we can rebuild it. But before we get into today's session, I've been noticing something, not just here on the live, but at work and in conversations as well. A lot of people are tired. I'm not sure about you, but I usually hear the word tired a lot. And I was thinking about it today. You're giving your time to be here. So I want to give you something back first. Instead of going straight into the content that I've prepared today, let's take a short reset. This will take about 1 minute. You can keep your eyes open or soften your gaze and just follow along. What you can do is breathe in for a count of 4. You hold for a count of 4 and you breathe out for a count of 4. Let's repeat that. We'll do 2 more of those. Breathe in for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. And you breathe out for a count of 4. And the last time, breathe in for 4. Hold for 4. And you breathe out for 4. All right. You can come back into the space and we can begin. So today's session is based on something I see quite often. People who are busy all day, but they're not actually moving forward. And let me share my screen with you. So that's our case file for today is you're busy all day, but you're not moving forward. And professionals are busy. I work with a whole host of people from executives down. They're busy. But what are they really doing? What are we really doing? Are we moving the needle? And here, let me be specific. It's not about laziness. It's not even a lack of discipline, but we find ourselves busy. Are we busy with the right things? You finish the day exhausted, but you struggle to say what actually moved forward. You answered messages, you attended meetings, you responded to requests, you solved problems. So you were busy, right? But then when the day ends, you haven't gotten to the strategic work, the thinking work, the meaningful progress work. That did not happen. And many of us feel productive during the day, but at the end of the day, you feel strangely unsettled because you were active all day, but progress feels unclear. What did I actually achieve? If I did this report, how did it move the needle? And remember, And this is the point I want to carry throughout this live, that activity is not the same as progress. You can be busy with a whole host of things, but that doesn't mean it's progress, that it's moving you along. So I have a question for you, my first question for this live. At the end of most work days, how do you feel? Do you feel A, productive, B, busy but satisfied, C, busy but unsure what moved, or D, completely drained? I'll give you a few seconds to pop your responses into the chat. Absolutely. So I've got responses of D, completely drained. And many will be choosing either C or D, busy but unsure what moved, or completely drained. And your responses are completely drained. And that's extremely common. With our modern work environments, it creates constant activity. But with the constant activity, it doesn't automatically translate to your progress. Professionals are not failing. They are responding to systems of constant input, all the things that's coming at them. And I think the next picture depicts that. Work no longer arrives in batches. So there's a shift in how we work in the current day. Years ago, it moved slower. I remember back in the 90s when I first started working in my first full-time job. Work used to come to us, we would need to do it. I remember at that point in time, I think it was 95, 96. We used to have what we called a typing pool. So used to literally write down our reports and walk that through to the typing pool. There's another person or a grouping of people that will take it, and then they'll type out your report, and then they'll deliver that to you thereafter. Then you walk that same report to your manager for them to review the report. Once they're done with the report, and they'll review it in red pen, you'll see all those markings as to what needs to change. They'll walk it to your office, and thereafter you walk the same report with your amendments, your manager's amendments back to the typing pool, and they'll finalize the report. And that was the process. So that is an example of how it was back in the early 90s when we used to work in corporates and in institutions. Things used to be much slower, and you can see the process that I indicated to you as well. Work was very slow. Now today, in this day and age, work arrives continuously, and professionals are expected to respond quickly. You'll have your WhatsApp groups and your work WhatsApp groups. There's conversations that's happening there. There's requests that's happening there. You'll have emails on your Outlook. You'll have your Gmail emails coming from there. You'll be in meetings. You'll be required to respond. Then there's also Teams. You'll get requests, you'll get queries on your Teams as well. Your calendar is full, back to back meetings. And out of those meetings, there's things that you need to do. Also, there's the urgent requests that come in between. So you can see professionals are expected in this day and age to respond quickly. And that creates a pattern. The day becomes reaction driven. Instead of deciding on what deserves your attention, we often just respond to what appears in front of us. And that is the busy trap. And therefore, you see the picture of the lady being totally exhausted in front of her computer. So let's introduce Tandi. She is a capable professional. She's not lazy. She is responsible, responds quickly. She helps her colleagues and she solves problems. So let's recount a typical day of Tandi's. At 7:30, she opens her email. Then at 9 o'clock, there's team meetings. 10:30, there's team messages that she has to attend to. At 12 o'clock, she needs to do some reporting work. At 2 o'clock, there's project meeting that she needs to attend. At 4 o'clock, the urgent request arrives. Now, this is Tandi's day. And between all of these activities, she needs to get work done. So if Tandi continues like this, imagine in 6 months' time, she's going to be exhausted, but would not have done anything meaningful to have moved the needle. But just imagine if she can change just one thing, just that 45 minutes block of focused time on advancing work each day, she starts moving forward again. Just a 45-minute block will help her to move forward. So, my question to you, and you can put it into the chat, looking at Tandi's day, where did real progress happen? A, in the morning emails, B, in the meetings, C, in reporting, or D, nowhere clearly? Where did real progress happen for Tandi? You can drop it into the chat. So many professionals can recognize themselves in this example. And it's not because they are inefficient, it's because their day is structured around a response. You have to keep responding. When work is driven by response, then progress becomes accidental and it's not intentional. You're not planning for that progress because you are just responding to whatever's coming up. Activity is not the same as progress. Remember that. If you're busy, it's not the same as progress. And Tandi, in terms of progress, in terms of her progressing, it's actually nowhere really that she has given time intentionally because she's reporting on her work. She's in meetings that is keeping the operations going. Morning emails, that's responding. So you can see that her development, her progress is not happening anywhere specifically because it's not intentional. So this brings me to the three types of work that fills up our day. There's work that keeps things running. There's some work that you respond to other people, and then there's some that actually moves you forward. So these are the three types of work. There's the responding work. That's work that is triggered by someone else or something external. It feels urgent, it's fast paced, and guess what? It's never ending. That's the responding work. It may come through by emails, messages, requests, telephone calls. So that's how you have to respond quickly, and it throws off your day. Then there's maintaining work. And the maintaining work, it keeps your role, your team, your organization functioning as it is. So it keeps things stable and running. So, for example, this would include meetings, it could be reporting, and it could also be updates. Then there's the last type of work, and this here is the advancing work, work that changes your future, not just maintains your present. So, this is where real progress happens. It requires focus, space, and sometimes it feels uncomfortable. So, this year includes thinking work, planning, learning, improving systems. So, it takes time and it's much slower, but it's important because it allows you to advance. Most professionals spend almost the entire day in the first two, responding and maintaining, and less to nothing in terms of advancing. So advancement becomes something they hope to do later. And guess what? Later never comes. My question to you is, where does most of your time currently go? One, responding to messages, two, meetings and updates, three, admin and reporting, or four, strategic or thinking work? You can put that into the chats. Where does most of your time currently go to? So, why does this happen to high performers? High performers often become the most reactive because they're trusted by other people. They are asked to do things because they will deliver. They're copied into more discussions and they're pulled into more decisions. So high performance performers are rewarded with more requests. They become problem solvers, and guess what? If you solve one problem, who are they going to go to next? Obviously you, because you'll solve another problem of theirs. And this year slowly shifts their day from creation to action to reaction. They have to react. They can't be proactive. They can't create. They have to react. And guess what about competence? Competence always attracts more requests. So if you're competent, you're going to attract more requests. But if everything becomes urgent, nothing becomes strategic. And to this last question, I've got responses of one and two, responding to messages, meetings, and updates. And yes, most professionals find themselves there. It's because we are always in reactive mode. So I've got this book that I'm working through. It's called Thinking Fast and Slow. by Daniel Kahneman. And he speaks about two types of systems, but I don't want to get technical in this live. But what he talks about is there's two types of thinking. So, two types of thinking mode. There's one which is fast, it's automatic, it's reactive. That's one part or one mode of thinking. Then the other one, the second system or a second mode of thinking, this is slower, it's more deliberate, and it's more intentional. Now, here's what's happening in most workdays. You receive messages, you receive emails, you have requests coming in. And without even realizing it, we spend the entire day in that fast reactive mode, which is system one. We're responding, we're replying, we're fixing. But progress does not come from that reactive work. Progress comes from deliberately taking time to think. So when we look at Tandi's example, she's not stuck because she's not capable. Remember, we said she's capable, she responds to people, she's a highly effective professional and capable professional. But she's stuck because her entire day, you saw that work day that I showed to you, her entire day is pulling her into reaction mode and leaving no space for intention. There's no intentionality behind some of her activities. She's just responding. And therefore, this next question is important for yourself. And I'd like you to reflect on it. What important work keeps getting postponed? You can drop it into the chat. What important work for yourself keeps getting postponed? I've got a response. Personal endeavors. End up not prioritizing my health and fitness. Absolutely. So it comes to self. Both these responses comes to self. That's what you're not doing. So the important work could mean also from a personal endeavor perspective, learning new skills. I've been watching podcasts on AI, and are we building skills to actually operate in this new world of AI? With AI, everything being most things being automated, and AI doing a lot of the things. Are we learning new skills? Strategic thinking is also postponed. I know I've been working previously with a group of executives. They were stuck in the mode one thinking, where they react to things, they are operational, that they couldn't do strategic thinking. Now, the strategic thinking means you have to be intentional. You need to set aside time. I'm speaking about executives, but there's strategic thinking about yourself as well. How are you going to move forward? What are you doing now? Would that still be applicable in 5 years' time in this world of AI? I did a thought experiment with ChatGPT about how would the world look in the next 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, and 500 years. It was very interesting. Maybe you should also do that because it takes out it actually makes us and forces us to look at life with new lenses and look at our life with a new lens. How can we position ourselves for what's to come? Not be fearful of it, but embrace it with as a new opportunity. Then there's also improving systems. That's also things that we postpone. We can do things better. We can optimize. Then there's also career development. And yes, as one of you mentioned, it's about health and fitness. We that if you don't have your health, then the other things fall by the wayside. So it's important that these activities we need to look at it from a long-term progress, and we can't keep postponing it day after day, month after month. And that's how professionals, they remain busy, but they stagnate. Warren Buffett, he spends most thinking and not reacting. Now, he's a wealthy billionaire, and there's a pattern you'll see with people who produce at a high level. They don't spend most of their time reacting, they spend their time thinking before they act. And you know what about high performers? Those high level performers, they protect that thinking time. They intentionally carve out time for them to think. And it's not laziness, this is deliberate. So, the reason why Buffett makes better decisions is not because he works harder, it's because he protects his thinking time, and it allows him to think deeply about issues, about what he's wanting to do. Now, I'm not saying that we all should be like Warren Buffett, but the principle is this: the progress comes from protected thinking time, not constant reacting. And progress comes from reflection, not just activity. Don't just be on the do mode. Think, be strategic. Is this moving the needle? Ask yourself that. So here's the shift: progress does not happen by accident, it happens when attention becomes deliberate. So the small changes matter. I'm going to repeat this again. The shift is this: your progress does not happen by accident. It's not going to just happen one day. It will happen when you give attention to it and you become deliberate about it. So if there's three words you need to take out of this, it's attention, being deliberate, and giving it, I said attention, being deliberate, and operating with intent, being intentional about what you do. So, what this really means is this: small changes in how you use your attention, that starts to build up, that starts to compound. So, for example, it can be as simple as protecting one block of thinking time in your day, where you are not reacting to messages. You are actually working on something that moves you forward. You need to decide, what is it that's going to move me forward? And that's where you put your attention. I know I learn a lot on AI, on various platforms, because I want to be on top of things. I don't want to hear about it down the line. I want to be at the forefront of the change. So I will read more, I will watch more um, more YouTube videos. YouTube can actually be your university. Instead of just being entertained, and consume for entertainment, now I consume to improve myself. Watching a podcast that can really help me help shape my thinking. Or you can decide in advance what deserves your attention. You decide instead of letting your inbox or meetings or other people decide for you. And sometimes that change can also be reducing the pressure to respond to everything immediately. Because not everything is urgent, even if it feels like it in the moment. Find ways in which you can decrease the response to things. You can close out time for yourself. When I was doing my masters, I was delivering full time, but what I did was at the in the morning I would wake up early and give that time from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the morning. I would work on all of my on my masters. So that's how I got my masters done in 2.5 years, whilst doing a full-time job. So how are you going to do? You want to give time to personal endeavors. You want to give time to your health and fitness. Where are you going to make that time? Where are you going to give to yourself? And it doesn't need to be big dramatic changes. Remember, if you give 45 minutes a day to yourself, that will compound over time. Learn a new skill, and that will propel you forward in your career as well. Otherwise, you stagnate. And over time that will build, and the that will help change the direction of your work. Remember the goal is not to do more work. The goal is to work with intention. I'd like to ask you, what would actually move your career forward right now? So ask yourself this: what would actually move me or my career forward right now? And you can drop it into the chats. What's one thing that will move your career forward right now? Freeing up time will move your career forward. And I would assume as well, if you have free time, that will help you to think about your next moves. So if you're freeing up time, it's about being intentional about how do you utilize that time going forward. Delegating more of my work and putting boundaries in place at work. And that again is a way that you stop the responding. So the responding work is by delegating more, creating the boundaries. Then, if you have that extra time or freed up time, then you need to move to the next step, which is, what do I need to do in order to move myself or my career forward? And that means you need to think it through. Where do you see yourself in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and then you work it back. What do I need to do from a skills perspective? How do I improve an important skill? How do I learn to develop strategic thinking? So, with this client that I was working with, one of the things that the leadership team identified is that they're too operational. They have to create space for thinking. So some of our engagements is just literally thinking, strategic thinking. How are we moving the needle in this function? So for yourself, it's about how do you move the needle in your life? Improving systems at work or improving systems on how you do things. Also, building relationships. It's important that we have a network. So, to advance in any career or to advance in your area, that network is so important. Do you spend time on LinkedIn networking with people, connecting with people? Because you might not need them now, but you might need them at a later stage. You also will follow what people are posting on. It's not about spending time, and long hours or on LinkedIn, but it's about creating connections. And all of the things that I just spoke about, when you're freeing time, and when you're concentrating on the skill that you're developing, whatever you're learning, your strategic thinking, building systems that optimize and improve your work, building relationships, this takes focused attention. It's not fragmented attention. You need to focus on it. And this is how professionals will be able to move ahead and not stagnate. I was watching the podcast on AI, and one of the things that they mentioned is that in this new era, we must be able, even professionals will need to be able to develop something quickly, and then they must be able to test that quickly and put it into the market and then move on like that. So you must be able to pivot, you must be able to be adaptable, flexible, and you must be able to just ensure that you can embrace the change quickly. And that's how you become relevant as well. So, are we building our skills for this AI age, for this highly technological age? I'd love you to ponder on that. I've got two more slides. If there's any questions you'd like to ask, please drop it into the comments or the chats. Progress requires courage because it means doing something different. You must, it's, remember I said it's uncomfortable. So you must embrace being courageous and do what's uncomfortable because it will set you up. And when you're uncomfortable, that's the time you actually grow. That's the time when you really are alive and you feel you can do it even though you're discomforted, but by the fact that you're at it, then that will give you the courage, the confidence to go on. And progress requires intention because it doesn't happen by accident. If there's anything I'd like you to take from this, just be intentional about your next moves. Just create that thinking time for yourself, that learning time for yourself. Modern work systems, it rewards being responsive, but progress, that requires deliberate direction. And I encourage you to ask yourself each day, don't just be busy. Ask yourself, what actually moved forward today? What did I do today that moved me forward, be it in my career or in my life? I don't see any questions. Okay. And that brings me to the last slide. You don't need to do everything. You just need to choose what matters. Be deliberate on what matters. Choose it deliberately. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time, same place, and always remember you matter. Bye for now.